Good Monday morning to everybody, and this is Burke Lyle. It is Monday, February 24th. This is about 9 a.m. as I am recording. It is raining outside here, and it's been raining pretty much all week. But yesterday it was nice, got to go outside, go on a run, got to enjoy the good weather this weekend before it started raining again. So this weekend really for me is about Washington, D.C. sports. And if you look around what happened in the Washington, D.C. sports landscape, a lot happened. The Nationals are playing spring training baseball. So they're playing their first baseball games. And they're exhibition games, but still first baseball games since they won the World Series. In fact, on Thursday, I wish I could have been down in West Palm Beach, but obviously I couldn't make it. There's actually another World Series parade for the Nationals. That one in West Palm Beach. I think a few thousand of their fans who were down in West Palm Beach got to go, and they got to celebrate. Obviously, I was not there, but it was nothing. Just looking at it, it was nothing, and rightfully so, nothing compared to what the parade was in Washington D.C. So yeah, it's been a fun off season. I'm really just enjoying it so far. I'm kind of I'm still celebrating the Nationals, maybe not as much as I did in November at first, but again, may just try to soak in watch the DVD a few more times. Maybe I want to rewatch all of Game 6 and Game 7 at least once, and then by the time the season starts, it'll be all ready to go. It'll be a new season, and maybe at times during the season I have nothing to do. I might pop on Game 6 or Game 7 or whatever, and then in terms of DVD. But yes, it's a new national season, so that's one storyline. In terms of the Redskins or Ravens, I guess it's kind of off season, kind of OTAs right now. Obviously, the Redskins have the second pick in this NFL draft, and many people think they will select Chase Young. So that'll be interesting. Or do they trade the pick, or what do they do with it? That could be interesting to see. Obviously, Ron Rivera is currently the coach right now, but not only the coach is also in charge of the front office personnel. So this is Ron Rivera's team on the field, and also he makes decisions who to keep, who to cut, who to draft, all those type of things. So how does the offseason of Ron Rivera look? We'll know a lot more within the next month or two. What potentially the team might be. And then on the other side, but the biggest things I want to talk about right now are the Washington Capitals. And this is going to be the best part of the show, and this is going to be most of the show, since they did a lot this weekend. Ovechkin scored his 700th goal on Saturday against the Devils. It wasn't in Washington, but he got it over with, which that was good. I think it relieves pressure now. And then second, they beat Pittsburgh yesterday. They beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is, if y'all don't know, I've talked about this rivalry some. This is a huge rivalry that, in my opinion, is the biggest rivalry in sports. I'm a fan of different teams. I also a fan of the Ravens, so I've been part of the Ravens-Steelers rivalry. That's intense, wanting to beat the Steelers. Being here in Athens, can't help but root for Georgia. Obviously, Georgia Tech is a rivalry, but I don't feel it in the same way. The Nationals, they don't really have a rivalry right now. You could say the Phillies, but I don't know. They really don't have a rivalry. They're not rivalries with the O's. It's really an owner dispute. Really, it's all about Masson. That's their biggest feud right now, is with TV rights, not on the field. And then, obviously, it'll be interesting to see how I feel it. It starts to happen, but obviously, Ravens, Steelers, how do I feel towards the Cowboys? I already do not like the Cowboys, but how do I feel towards them? Right? But the biggest rivalry I feel more than any other in sports is Caps Penguins. Like that, I feel like is the best, and it's right up there, Red Sox, Yankees, in terms of pro sports rivalries. It is a huge rivalry, probably one of the biggest rivals in the National Hockey League, and there's a bunch of rivalries in the National Hockey League, all the metropolitan teams, especially the ones in the Northeast. Caps, Rangers, Rangers, Islanders, Rangers, Devils, whatever, Rangers, Penguins, you could go on and on. Are rivals pretty much. You can cross the Atlantic and the Metropolitan Division. There's a rivalry among all of them. So now you go on to this rivalry. It's just a huge rivalry. It's Crosby versus Ovechkin. Everybody picks a side. That's the rivalry I feel most intense about, and that's why it feels so good to beat the Penguins, especially in the playoffs, on your way to winning the Stanley Cup. or if it's a regular season game like a Wednesday night in December or a Sunday afternoon on Super Bowl Sunday. They lost in Washington, but they won yesterday. Or obviously, and then third, the final news the Caps did this week, and they did three things. They acquired Ilya Kovalchuk, which Kovalchuk is 36 years old. He's one of the better goal scorers of this era. And, was really good in Atlanta for many years. Scored a lot of goals there, but was on a lot of really bad teams. Went to New Jersey. Did well there. Then went to Russia. Now he's back in the NHL. So those are the three Caps storylines. So now I want to kind of go into depth of the Capitals storylines of what happened. So what did Ovechkin's 700th goal mean? And look, it wasn't a game that they won. They did not win that game. So when Ovechkin scored it, Kuznetsov was behind the net, passed it to Ovechkin. Normally he's on the left side, the left face-off circle, and this is kind of advanced, might be a more advanced hockey terminology. It was on the, normally his office is usually on the left face-off circle. This time scored from the right face-off circle, just a one-timer, and just put it into the net. And he scored, and that was goal number 700. They stopped the game. It wasn't just any goal. The crowd, the Caps fans that were there gave him a standing ovation. And he scored his 700th goal, and you think of all the greats, right? Only 8 players in NHL history have ever had 700 goals. So next year may pass certain names like Brett Hull, or certainly in 2 years may pass names like Jaromir Jagr. And you go down the pattern list, right, of Alex Ovechkin. This is his 15th year in the league. He got to 700. He's 34. He's on about a 50. He's averaging, it seems like, where he is right now. He's getting in 14 full seasons. You also had the lockout season, but again, he's averaging close to 50 goals per season. Since you want to go back in time, 2 years ago, against Winnipeg, I remember, he scored his 600th goal. That was 2 years ago. About on a 50 goal per season pace. 2 years prior to that, it was in early January against Ottawa and Washington. He scored goal number 500. So again, that was about 4 years ago now. He was 30 years old. 2 years prior to that, I believe in 2014, he scored 400. And then 300 took a little bit longer. I think he scored 300 in 2011. And he scored 200 all the way very quickly. I think it was in 2009 when he scored 200. And then he scored 100 very early in the 07-08 season when he wanted to score 65 goals and win the Hart Trophy. So again, Ovechkin, about once every 2 years, it seems like, gets to... So he started in 05 and 07, he scored 100, and then 200, 300. 400 took a little bit longer for multiple reasons, kind of in the early part of the decade. He kind of got on a little bit of a goal-scoring slump, didn't score as much. Was still in the 30s, but not quite the same Rocket Richard-like candidate. And that was kind of, and then kind of picked the 50-goal-like pace up the next few years as he went to 400, 500 very quickly. And then the last year they won the President's Trophy. The year before they won the Cup, he scored 33, so I had a little of a blip in the radar. And again, then went on to score, obviously, again, going forward in chronological order. Kind of got back that 50-goal level pace. The year he scored 600 was on a 50-goal level pace. Last year he scored 51. This year he may score over 50 again. So again, in terms of 50-goal seasons and Rocket Richard trophies, there's none like Ovechkin, and this year Ovechkin may score 50 goals, yet Austin Matthews of Toronto or David Pastrnak on the President's Trophy winning Bruins, likely to be presidents, but may score close to 60. So again, Ovechkin is scoring, and I talked about Ovechkin right after that Kings game, since I felt it was appropriate to talk about it. And we didn't think it would take 18 days. So we thought it would be a lot quicker than that. We thought, hey, probably knock it out against Philly the way he's going, or certainly against the Islanders. And we thought, well, it's going to happen on the West Coast. Didn't happen when 5 games out of goal, which that's a long time for the grade 8. But again, you think about what he's done. So now there's been a debate going on. Will he pass Gretzky? And it's going to be hard to say. If he plays till he's 40. Now there's something to keep in mind. His contract is up after next year. So I've heard talks of earlier, there's a possibility of Ovechkin retiring. I don't think that's going to happen. So again, if he gets to 800, that would be, at his current pace, he'd do it in 2022. He'd be 36. and then he'd be 38 if he kept going at this 50 goal per season pace. Is he going to get to 800? Yes. Is he going to get to 900? We will see. That is basically the maximum. That is passing Gretzky. Gretzky is at 894, I believe. So if he passes Gretzky, that would be remarkable. So do you think about the era he played in? And when Gretzky played, you had Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, kind of the best scorers in the league back then. In the 1980s, guys could score 200 points in a season. Like, they could score 80 goals and get 100 plus assists. I mean, that was just the way the league was back then. And now it has changed. I mean, Nikita Kucherov in Tampa scored 128 points last year. That's about as much as anyone will see. So again, 100 points now is considered good. So again, Ovechkin, the era when he first came in the league, I mean, he was kind of fresh off one of the lowest scoring totals in league history. And scoring has gone up so far. Obviously, the goalies are really good. You have kind of a mix of really good goaltending and obviously good goal scoring too. It'd be nice if we were higher, but could you make an argument Ovechkin could have scored 1,000 goals if he would have played in the 1980s and obviously had 100 and scored 100 plus goals in a season? Yes, you could, but again, think about all the great goal scorers of this era. I mean, are there any others you can think of? I mean, obviously you have guys who score 500 goals. That's very remarkable. Obviously, his now teammate Ilya Kovalchuk. I think about this sometimes. If he didn't go to Russia and he could have averaged 30, 35 goals a year, he would have been at 600 right now. The way he was at right now, I mean, but he basically left to go to Russia he kind of wasted potential prime years. He kind of wasted his first part of his 30s, right? So that's then and then. But really, there are no other really great goal scorers in that era. I mean, Sidney Crosby can score goals. He's scored 50 goals in the 40s and 50s, but obviously that's not all his game. He's more of a complete type player, right? And there's guys who can score 30 goals a year many times. But again, there's a difference in doing that and getting to five or even 600 goals, and then scoring 700 goals at the speed Ovechkin has. I mean, no one's ever done that. I don't know if we'll ever see a goal score like that again. I mean, name me a better goal scorer in this era. I mean, who's number 2? Obviously, it's Ovechkin who's number 1. And then, yeah, sure, there was years where Ovechkin's kind of down, where someone else might win the Rocket Richard Trophy every now and then. But again, this is almost all Ovechkin. And not only that, he's gotten to 700, so now we're waiting to see what will happen. And this is definitely the greatest Washington Capital ever, no question. It will shatter every Capitals goal scoring record. And it will be interesting to see eventually who's number 2 on the all-time Capitals scoring list. But again, 5 years ago, heading into this 15-16 season, where he had 475 goals in the last 5 years. Let's just say, let's do the math, he ends it at 53. Let's say he gets to 710 or 711. Pretty good number, right? 711. So that's the end of the season. So when that time span, you think about it, that is 237 goals. That is close to about 47, 48 per year. Right? And what if he does that the next 5 years after that, basically until he's 40? Well, then if you have another 230, you have well over 900. That's not going to happen, but if you can average 40, or what if you average 30, it's going to be close. So is he going to pass Gretzky or not? It's going to be close. If he doesn't, he's going to be very close. He's going to be second. Since the space between Gordie Howe was about at 800 and Gretzky's at 894, and think about the era Gretzky played in, I mean, he had a tremendous head start in his goal scoring total. I mean, he was putting up crazy, crazy numbers in Edmonton. And obviously his production slowed down as he got older. But again, the gap between 1 and 2 is drastic, is very big. So now the question is, he'll be somewhere between Howe and Gretzky, probably a lot closer to Gretzky. But if he passes Gretzky, that would be remarkable considering the era he plays in. I'm rooting for him to do it. I'm sure people around the league are. That would be remarkable. So that's kind of this order of business, what happened. But then it was overshadowed by losing to New Jersey. So when you lost to New Jersey, then all of a sudden, that happens, and then that gets frustrating since we're on such a frustrating stretch. I mean, you think about what happened between pretty much the Kings game, where everything seemed to be going really well. Ovechkin had a hat trick in that third period takeover, and then getting blown out by the Flyers at home, losing to the Islanders at home, rallying to beat, I think it was Colorado, and then just losing straight up to Arizona and the Coyotes, and then losing in overtime to the Canadiens, and then the right before just last Thursday, and then in that game it came down to an empty net goal. So this team's playing from behind. So now we fast forward, we lose to the Devils, a very frustrating loss. The Devils scored about 2 minutes left. I think it was on a power play goal. Very frustrating way to lose. So they lose then, and now it's time to play Pittsburgh. First place in the Metro is at stake. It's Sunday afternoon. Ovechkin's just scored 700, so obviously that's extra energy into the arena. You know, it fires up the crowd. So now, what happens? So in that game, just kind of how I saw the goal. So in some ways, there's goals that shouldn't have been scored. So Jake the Snake Vrana, about right before the first timeout, about 6 minutes in the game, scores on a breakaway, which that's his game, you know, breakaway speed, scoring goals. So he scores the first goal, and it was a lucky goal since he used strength. He was obviously being chased by the defenseman. It was Marcus Pettersson, who basically tried to dive, and did. And basically, when on the rebound, basically slid the puck into the net. So again, Vrana, he's somebody who, again, when I was there right around the time of the World Series parade, I was lucky enough to see 2 Caps games in Washington. He scored 5 goals in those 2 games, including that hat trick. Very fun, probably the most fun I've ever had at any sporting event in my lifetime. Very high up there, that Caps Flames game honoring the Nationals. But that was for them. This is now. So he scores that goal, right? It stretches like that, and you think, oh, he might score 40. You know, he could really score a lot of goals since all of his goals aren't even strength. But then he just had that 10-game goal scoring drought or whatever it was. He had a long goal scoring drought. So again, I think he's inconsistent. I think he's still trying to find his game. I think he's still trying to develop. Since yes, could he be somebody you can keep an eye out for as a Rocket Richard winner one day? Maybe in a down year, scores 45 goals, puts it all together. Yes, I think so, and that's why they paid him a fair amount of money this offseason. I think in a couple of years, he's going to be due for a lot of money, so I think it's important for the Capitals to try to keep him. So it'll be interesting to see what type of player he is and how he performs down the stretch. Does he get to 30, 35 goals this year? And then what about the playoffs? We'll see there. But the end, that was good. And then obviously the Penguins tied the game. And then late in the second period, it all happened within just 30 seconds of each other. Sidney Crosby's kind of going towards the net, falls down, hits the puck in the air by the sliding TJ Oshie, deflects the puck in the net. So again, you have 2 goals that shouldn't have happened, where you don't see very often, where somebody slides in and they knock the puck in. It happened twice. So then now they're losing to Pittsburgh, and obviously it's nervous going to the third period. They're losing to Pittsburgh. And it's very nerve-wracking. And then what happens next? Fairly early on in the third period, Tom Wilson scores on a breakaway, ties the game, which Tom Wilson, again, it's just amazing to see his evolution evolving from this kind of fourth line, kind of like what Garnett Hathaway is right now, who gets into fights, does all the big hits, and just evolving over in time, now working right up to the third line, scoring right around 10 goals a year, to then now playing on the first line of Alex Ovechkin, playing power play and penalty kill. Tom Wilson, in terms of complete players on the team, offense and defense, might be the best player to play on both ends, power play and penalty kill. Scoring goals, I think has gotten 20 already this year. So that was very nice to see. Right then there, tying the game. And then it was trying to remember the order. I think now that I think about it, I think it was Carl Hagelin kind of right in front of the net that gave them the lead. And then Evgeny Malkin scored a spectacular goal. Basically, kind of did a move on John Carlson, who may win the Norris Trophy this year. Kind of like looked like a Euro step, kind of what it'll be like in basketball. Got around him. That was the goal of the game. That tied the game, and it was nervous. So that's halfway through the period. And then TJ Oshie, who's been really good this year. In fact, when they've been down in recent years, their best goal scorer as of recently has been TJ Oshie, scoring the game-winning goal in Colorado, scoring 2 against Vegas last week. So Oshie's been their best goal scorer in recent weeks. Is kind of 25, make it to 30 on the years, on pace to get a little over 30. That was the go-ahead goal. That's what they needed, and the rest of the way was just a close game down the stretch. And then finally, it was Carl Hagelin scoring an empty net goal. Backstrom could have just done a long-range shot, but instead passed it on. It was good to see 2 goals out of Hagelin, who for a very long time struggled to score any goals at all. His goal-scoring total has picked up recently. And just beating the Penguins, it gives you first place in the Metro. It felt great. Just as a Capitals fan, you know, you pick sides, right? And again, beating Pittsburgh, claiming first place in the Metro, it felt so good since the Penguins have just lost 3 in a row now. They were red hot. They for a brief time were tied to the Caps, never surpassed them. They very well could have, since they had their opportunities to do that. And that's what happened, and that's how they won, by beating the Penguins. You know, and they played from behind, and they could have just gotten away. The Penguins could have shut them down. They could have lost the game, but they took over in that third period, which what that game kind of reminded me of. Nowhere near, the stakes are nowhere near as high, but still high. That Game 5 in Washington on May 5th, 2018, it was 2-2. They were down early in the third period. Kuznetsov, very early in that period, tied the game on kind of a breakaway move, one-on-one isolation play like Tom Wilson did, and then the go-ahead goal. Jacob Vrana scored that go-ahead goal in a game where they trailed at times, and then they finished it up with empty net goals. That's what that game somewhat reminded me of. Where, again, obviously Game 5 of a playoff series, to then this now, where whoever wins this game will be in control. Now, granted, that's a 2-point lead. That's opposed to a 3-2 lead, and then opposed to a 2-point lead in the standings with 6 weeks left to play and almost 20 games left to play. There's a difference between the two, but again, is this, whoever wins this game, is this the momentum kicker? Is this what gets the Caps to winning the Metro and potentially going on a deep playoff run? Who knows? Who knows? But that felt good. And then later that night, just hours later, it was right after dinner. It was about 9:30 at night. I found out the news that the Caps acquired Ilya Kovalchuk, who, again, I didn't think they'd actually acquire. And I had just got an alert, which if I would have done this quickly and could have flown through this episode in 10 minutes, I would have never gotten the opportunity to speak on this. But with Kovalchuk, I just got an alert, and let me read it right now. Oh, sorry about that. So I'm back. Apparently, when I went to see the alert, it stopped my other video. So the Kovalchuk, believe it or not, actually passed on the Bruins. So what this means now is he chose the Capitals over the Bruins, which is even more remarkable. So again, Kovalchuk wanted to be here in Washington. I think he wanted to play with Alex Ovechkin or Evgeny Kuznetsov. Was it due to the potential Russian culture on the team? Was it due to that maybe? Or do you want to win the Stanley Cup? He wanted to win the Stanley Cup, Kovalchuk. And also, since he passed on the Bruins, a team that may win the President's Trophy, to go to the Capitals. Which again, he wants to be in Washington. That's great. I think he thinks that's probably the best place for him to win a Stanley Cup. Since it was either between the Capitals and the Bruins. Said, no, I don't want to go to Boston. I want to go to Washington. And with Kovalchuk coming in, this is what it is. He brings scoring to the third line, who, again, you think about their third line unit, right? They had, obviously Lars Eller scored 15 goals this year, but Richard Panik has struggled to score. Carl Hagelin has scored recently, but again, this has been the case throughout his career. Sometimes can score goals, sometimes struggles to score goals. That was the case last year. So now you bring Kovalchuk, he's going to be the right winger and may come on the second wave of the power play. So again, he may share the ice with Ovechkin at times, and that is nice. And obviously, my other thoughts for this, which I thought of this pretty much right away, is I feel I want the Capitals to win the Stanley Cup even more. I want them to do it for Kovalchuk, who again, Atlanta area listeners, you might remember him if you're an Atlanta sports fan on the Thrashers. Great goal scorer there. Along with Ovechkin, one of the better goal scorers of the era. And then went to New Jersey for 3 years. Actually went to the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals when they lost to the Kings. Went to Russia, spent about a year and a half with the Kings. And then spent a matter of weeks, not months, on the Canadiens. And here he is in Washington right now, trying to win the Stanley Cup. So in the playoffs, does he score some power play goals? Does he score third line goals? How often do you see him on the ice with Ovechkin? When they go from first power play wave to second power play wave, you may see him on the ice as well with Ovechkin. With Kuznetsov is on the second wave, and Orlov, and if Samsonov is in the net, you'll have all five Russian. You'll have the Russian five on the ice. So again, he'll get to spend some ice time with Ovechkin each game, probably a few minutes per game, depending on how often they go on the power play and how often they make their power play switch. So that'll be nice. So hopefully down the stretch, can score some goals, provide goal scoring for that third line that desperately needs it. And not only that, maybe we'll score a few power play goals now and then. Hopefully this fires up the team and says, hey, this guy Kovalchuk wants to be here in Washington, wants to be here to win the Stanley Cup. So hopefully this is what puts him over the top to win the Stanley Cup. Since again, I got to see Ovechkin raise the cup. I got to see Backstrom. I got to see everybody raise the cup at least once. Many guys on this team all won the Stanley Cup at least once as part of this team. Sure, many players have come and gone since then. If there's anyone on this team I want to see winning the Stanley Cup right now, sure, I want to see. So again, if they win the Stanley Cup, it will be Kovalchuk who will be getting the trophy first from Ovechkin. Or if not second, certainly third. That's who I want to see winning the Stanley Cup, and that's why I came here. So I'm thinking, let's win the cup for Kovalchuk. That's what I'm thinking. So I like the trade. It kind of got me excited. Kind of a former NHL star, kind of on the Capitals, playing with Ovechkin, wanting to be here more than anything. That's why I like this trade. So I think it will work out. I really do. And I think their odds to win the Stanley Cup might increase slightly. So we'll see. So then that takes place. So that's kind of the Capitals weekend right there. And next, it is time for the Wizards. I did watch the Wizards on Friday and also on Sunday. I did not watch from start to finish. I think I had dinner in between. But they lost to the Cavs and didn't get into the Bulls. So if you thought they were just, I think, 2 games out of the final playoff spot, if you thought they were going to make it to the playoffs, which I mean, again, with the Wizards, I kind of felt conflicted for a long time because do you want to get the 8th seed, somehow get the 8th seed and then get blown out by the Bucks? Or do you just want to get worse and just win the lottery? So with this team, since the Eastern Conference is so big, the bottom half, I mean, you have a Nets team that is the 7th seed, that is no Kyrie, nor Kevin Durant. We knew that. But with Kyrie, we expect him to be healthy all year. Has barely been healthy at all. And when he's on the court, sure, he's been really good. He's scored a lot of points for them, if you want to say that's been productive. But this Nets team right now is a borderline playoff team. Shouldn't really be in. And then you have a Magic team that's okay, I guess. I don't know. I know they play defense. They must have really bad offense. So you have a Magic team similar to last year. So again, in terms of the Eastern Conference, you look at the matchups. I think Philadelphia and Miami will be a good series, and then Boston Indiana could be somewhat interesting. But the Bucks playing the Magic, that's going to be quick and over. That's not going to be much fun. And then the Raptors playing the Nets or whoever, maybe it's the Celtics. If whoever gets hot, maybe it becomes the Heat. I don't know. But whoever plays the Magic, that top half is going to be really boring. Last year, 2 years ago, Boston-Milwaukee 2-7 was a great series, a lot of fun, and took 7 games. But this year, no. That is not going to be much fun. In terms of those series, I'm probably not going to watch them too much, if any. So forget about that. But just going back to the Wizards, where are they going? Like, where are they going? I don't know where they're going. Like, do you want to get blown out in the first round and have the 15th pick? Sure, maybe you hope you get a Donovan Mitchell type player or a John Collins type player. That happened 3 years ago. Or, I mean, what are you doing? Or do you want to fall further down and maybe really stumble down the stretch and have hopes of winning the lottery, having a top 5 pick? I mean, where is this team going? And we don't know. Throughout the year, we figured they'd be something like this. And this has been very typical. Bradley Beal scores 30, 40 points. And they still lose, and they still lose. That's happened all year long. This has been this Wizards team. And last night, Bradley Beal scored 53, and they still lost. So this has been Beal's team. All year long, Beal has done pretty much all of the scoring. Since again, Rui Hachimura's had his moments, but he's not ready right now. He's not ready to contribute too much. Really needs to work on the three-point shot in the modern NBA. Who is your center right now? What is this team? Well, you don't have John Wall. You don't have your full team identity. And they knew that. And this year has been, so if you want to look back on this Wizards season, they missed the playoffs. And they play 500, so let's say they go 32-50. That seems like fairly reasonable. They won some games. They had that stretch where everybody was hurt, and they played a Fiji League team, and they managed to pull off some wins, I think, right around the turn of the year. And then now here they are again. So what are you going to do right now? I don't know. It's been an interesting season. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. If they did, that would be fun just to kind of root for a team in playoff basketball, even if you know almost certain they're going to be swept by the Bucks in 4. Again, maybe just something just another DC sports story along with the Nationals, April, and obviously the Capitals going for another Stanley Cup in 2 years. So does this town need the Wizards to be in the playoffs? No, they do not. So to be honest, whatever happens down the stretch, if they somehow get in the playoffs, great. If they don't, whatever they do, I'm okay with, and I'm really not too concerned of what the Wizards do right now. Right now, as a DC sports fan, in terms of other storylines, the Redskins that same month will be picking second a week after the Wizards season ends. The Capitals will be trying to go on a playoff run. And also, the Nationals will be starting a new season. So in terms of storylines, in terms of teams to pay attention to in the city, the Wizards would be 4th. So again, what they do, I don't know. I'm okay either way. Whether they win the lottery, tank, but really fall down the standings, win the lottery, or somehow get the 8th spot, I'm okay. They get John Wall back next year. Hopefully, they need Rui Hachimura to develop, and maybe they can put together a good team next year that makes it to the playoffs as a solid 5 or 6 seed. So who knows? Who knows about the Wizards right now? This is similar to what they were last year, where Bradley Beal, not a very good team, trying to somehow get the 8th seed. So what are they doing? I don't know. This is questionable right now. They're in a spot where you don't know what they're doing. So who knows what happens with the Wizards? I don't know. But I do know this. I'm thinking about a Capitals Stanley Cup run, and I'm glad to see the Nationals come back. That's what I'm excited for right now. Those are the 2 things I'm most excited for. And so whatever the Wizards do right now, I'm not too concerned with. I mean, I'll watch their games down the stretch. But at this point, I don't know. There's the Nationals just won the World Series. So again, I'm honest here. When you listen to DC Sports Talk Radio, they almost never talk about the Wizards. So again, most people in Washington, the Wizards are the number 4 team in Washington right now. They probably are. So, look, we'll see what happens. So, what am I looking forward to? Well, this week I'm going to start watching the Capitals again. They'll be playing 3 games this week. They'll be playing the Jets twice, once in Washington, then again in Manitoba. They'll be playing the Wild. It'll be their stretch run. They're not going to win the President's Trophy. That's good news. It's too much pressure. I don't like that trophy. Give it to the Bruins. And the Nationals are playing spring training baseball, so if they're on, I'll try to watch them some. So I'm looking forward to this. And also, in other sports news, I don't know, it's kind of a slow period right now. March Madness is a month away, so in about 3 weeks from now, I'll be doing my March Madness podcast. So thank you, everybody, for listening.